Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us, we have a new knife from SOG. This monster is the SOG Seal XR. This, along with the Kiku XR and the Terminus XR, are three new knives from SOG, which have, for me at least, completely changed the way I look at the company. Don't get me wrong. They have made and still make a lot of really ungood knives, but at the top of their knife making, it's got a little, I've been carrying this, I got something on the handle, are these knives. This, of course, excuse my arm, this, of course, is the Kiku XR, and my Terminus is not on the table, so we will move on from that. Now, the Seal is one of their fixed blades, and if you recognize this handle, you recognize that it is patterned very much the same as the Seal and Seal Pup fixed blades. They decided to make a folding version, and what they made was a beautiful monster. They just did. It is S35 VN. It is, handles are GFN or FRN. It is steel liners. It has this marvelous XR lock. The action on this is just, well, it's marvelous. The blade came dead centered. It has a, well, let's call it a conversation ender on the end of it here. It's not really a glass breaker, it's more of a head knocker, but it is really good at what it does. It has a lanyard hole right through the tail end here. The FRN, GRN, GFN, anyway, the plastic handles are milled in such a way that offer phenomenal grip, and there is jimping along the entire spine of this knife and the finger side of this knife. You lock into this thing, it is not going anywhere. The thumb rest up here has got just the right amount of jimping. It is perfect. I love this knife, but then again, I love really big knives, and this thing is enormous. It has a pocket clip, because it's a pocket knife, that yells SOG at you, and I sort of wish that it didn't. And it is not what I would call deep carry. There's about that much knife sticking out of your pocket. But here's the thing, on these hard-use knives, and this is a hard-use built knife, deep carry is not really something that most people are interested in. In fact, you want a fair amount of knife sticking out of the pocket so you can get a hold of it and pull it free. And in that, this is, well, remarkably well done. It is a clip point blade with a high flat grind. As I said, it is S35 VN, and this one came with no sharpening smile, a really nice sharpening choil, and very even grind lines. It is very well done. I am exceptionally happy with this knife all the way around. Now, this one is not mine. This one belongs to Jimmy Slash, excuse me. He was nice enough to loan it to me for my comparison review. But I got to tell you, at 170 bucks, and that's about where these fall out, I'll be getting one. You know, this is the knife I want in my camping and outdoor gear for sure. Now, that knife that currently lives in that state is my 8010, which I don't have on the table, which is kind of a bummer. But this knife is $40 less than they're selling the 8010 for right now, and all that much knife. It really is. You don't get the Demco Triad lock, of course, but this XR lock, at least so far in my hands, has shown no sign of failing. Now, because this is a loaner knife, I have not beaten the crap out of it, as some of you might. But I have used it, and I have carried it, and it has never let me down. Now, when I say it's a big knife, what are we talking about? Well, let's do some size comparisons. No, first, let's get some measurements out of the way. Line it up here on the line. You will see that you get 1, 2, 3.5 inches of cutting on 3 3/4 inches of S35 VN. The grip area from behind the flipper tab is 1, 2, 3, 4 full inches of grip. The overall knife in length, I mentioned this in another video, I forget to do this measurement sometimes. Don't be afraid to remind me, guys. is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 inches long to the end of the handle, and 9 and a little bit if you add in the head knocker here at the end. This is a big knife. Let's do the size comparisons. Here it is against the Mini Presidio 2 by Benchmade. Now this is their black class, as is the next knife that I'm going to show you. These are supposed to be designed for harder use and for kind of crappy environments, lots of grip on the blades. This is $130, I think, $100 and something dollars. This is, as I said, about $160, $170. This, of course, is the full-size Presidio 2. And as you can see, the seal is bigger. Now, you actually get a little more blade on the Presidio, but you get less handle. This is designed, as is this, but, you know, for gloves. Nick Shabazz used to say this is the knife you'd want to use if you worked in a Vaseline factory, because you wouldn't drop it. And I got to tell you, this is that knife all over. Now, what do you give up for this much mass? Well, it's a little heavy. It is a handful, to be sure. Let's take a look at exactly how much of a handful. I think it's going to be weighty. All right, old scale, zero out. There we go. Yeah, that's 8.2 ounces. By way of comparison, the very similarly sized Presidio full size is just dead on 5 ounces. This thing is a behemoth. It really is. But it's a big knife in dimension as well. Certainly the blade is not super long, but you get a really thick chunk of S35 VN. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Let's see here. You get 4.7 millimeters thick of S35 VN. This is a thick chunk of S35 VN steel. The handle at its thickest part is 17.75 millimeters, or 0.7 of an inch. So you're coming up on 3/4 of an inch right quick. This is a big knife. The closed dimensions in pocket are enormous. If we leave that on at its thickest point, you are looking at 1.7 inches, almost 2 inches from end to end. This is not a lightweight knife for everyday carry, although that's what I use it for, because that's just how I roll. This is a big, beastly behemoth designed for hard work and hard use, and I love it. Do I have any complaints? Well, yeah, I wish the pocket clip didn't shout SOG at you. It's a SOG. We get it. I wish it was a little deeper carry, despite the argument that I made for it. They could do a little better than that. I wish it wasn't a DLC coated blade, a blacked out blade. S35 VN doesn't need to be coated like that. Cheaper steels need it, higher carbon steels need it to keep them from rusting, but S35 VN is relatively rust and corrosion free, and it doesn't really need this kind of a coating. I get that it is part of the tactical look, but this is going to show abuse fairly quickly, I imagine. But that's okay. A lot of people like when their knives look beat up. The closed length on this thing, just for fun, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 inches long, which puts it a ½ inch longer than the Presidio 2. This thing is an absolute beast, but I love knives like this. One of the first knives I thought of when I got this thing out and got a chance to look at it is this. This is a 7-year-old Kaiser GTI. This is part of their Hunter series. I love this knife. In fact, there's a review coming on this that I filmed the other day just because I dug it up out of my collection and realized I never really talked about it. I love big knives like this. You guys know that. This is no exception. If you're looking for kind of a regular beefy EDC carry, go with something like this. Right? This is a little cheaper too. It's about 130 bucks. If you are looking for an absolute monster in great materials with a good lock and a really cool aesthetic, go find yourself the SOG Seal XR. You will not be disappointed. I love this thing. And because of that marvelous XR lock, the fidget factor on this is through the roof. It is not just fun to use, it is fun to open and deploy. It is completely ambidextrous. You can swap the clip from this side to this side, and because of the XR lock, lefties get all the love too. They really do. I've said this before in my other reviews about these knives. I want SOG to make more of this, and the Terminus. I want them to stop making the old stuff. I want them to recognize that there is a market for them to produce high-end knives that both collectors and harder users and people that just understand what good quality looks and feels like will put their money into. And these are two great examples of that. The final analysis is simple. If you love the 8010, but you can't find or afford one, can't find one half the time, but you're in that price range, coming up on 200 bucks, don't be afraid to give one of these a look. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I really don't. I think if you've got big hands like I do, that you will love this thing. I do. I think the SOG Seal XR is a remarkable knife. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this knife, or any knife you've ever seen on my channel, feel free to ask down in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. I would love to have you here on a regular basis. We'll see you next time.